All right, welcome back to the Summits Podcast. Here we are, episode numero 5. Cinco.
Yep.
Good friend Julie Drew joins us today.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for coming in.
Good. Thank you.
It's been a while.
Me. I know. With this COVID thing.
When was the last time we saw each other?
A year ago?
We didn't get together in December, did we?
No, we didn't. We usually have our annual Christmas get together,
right.
and COVID put a wrench in all of that.
So you're talking almost a year and a half.
Almost a year and a half.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, Heroes. I saw you last year at Heroes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So January of 2019.
Yeah.
No, 2020.
2020.
Was it 2020? Oh yeah, it was 2020. We did get that one off.
Yep. Got that one. Right before.
It all runs.
It was right
anymore.
before. It was like the last event.
Yep.
Wow. It still seems like forever ago.
I know.
Crazy.
Time crawled there for like 8 months or whatever.
Yeah. Crawl's a generous word.
Yes.
Well, we'd like to start out by just introducing us to Julie Drew. The early years, going back to Motor City.
Oh my gosh, the early years. Yes, so grew up suburban Detroit area, in a town called Plymouth, kind of in between Ann Arbor and Detroit. And so lived there all my life, went to an all-girls Catholic school, Mercy High School in Farmington, and then applied to IU. Didn't even really know what IU was, Indiana University.
What attracted you to IU? Anything in particular?
No, at the time, no.
Okay.
A friend of mine had an extra application, and I literally filled it out in the cafeteria in pencil. Not even official. I didn't know anything about it. So I applied. That was, the early years when you could just fill it out like that.
Yeah.
So, and then got accepted. And I think we were driving around in the springtime going to the schools that I had gotten accepted to and with my parents. And it was IU versus Duke in the Final Four. So that was spring of 1992. Mm-hmm. And
were you born yet, by the way?
Yeah, I was 2 years old.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh gosh. But so we visited that weekend of Final Four, and spring in Bloomington and the games and it was just a magical place. So then I was like, that's where I want to be. And ended
where were
up
most
there.
of your friends going?
Michigan State.
Okay.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Somewhere in state for
Right.
the most part.
So you want to be an outlier.
I wanted to go. Yeah, really. Michigan State was my last choice.
Okay.
And Michigan was 15 minutes away. Didn't even apply.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of get away a little bit. And so, yeah, Hoosier bound.
And you're better off for it, right?
Right. Well, I came here and I never left.
There you go.
Yeah.
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 I don't know if we met at IU. I'd like to think that we probably did, but those
Not
years,
officially.
Those years are kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
What were you studying at IU?
Kinesiology,
Okay.
exercise science.
Yeah. And were you in a house?
I was a Kappa.
You were a Kappa.
Kappa Gamma.
Oh, I should have known that. I coached the Kappa flag football team for 2 years.
Oh, you did?
That was awesome, by the way.
Well, I did that one year, and it was Vila and Biscuit were
They took over for me, yeah.
so they were our coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And she threw out nicknames that I had to quickly remember. Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I still see Vila at St. Luke School.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
okay. Yep.
sometimes I have a hard time remembering what his first name is.
Right. Yes. Well, we had kind of a sidebar here. In the summertime, you come back from school and you would call up. This is before cell phones. I know it's hard.
Shocking.
Can you imagine?
I know.
But you'd call up, your fraternity brother's house. His mom would answer you and you'd say, "Oh, it's so and so there," and you by their nickname. She's like, "I don't know who that is," and she knew. I mean, she's like, "You need to call him by his real name," and then you're like, "Oh crap, what's his name? I forgot."
Yeah, that's funny. Good times. Yeah.
Good times. So Julie and I have known each other for a long time. So like I said, I'm sure we probably crossed paths at IU. If not, it wasn't long after that. We've known each other for over 20 years.
Right. Right.
In fact, I
Probably
vividly
25.
remember I mean, shoot, I remember your wedding day like it was almost yesterday. There's things I can't remember that were an hour ago, but I remember that for some personal reasons. But so we've known each other for a long time. We've co-experienced a lot of different things with both in our different families, but our surrounding core group of friends. As Julie noted earlier, every December some of my Chatard friends and their spouses get together, and so we have a holiday party every year, and some of those are fuzzy too. But we always have a good tradition of whoever gets this big plastic, like 1970s looking Santa decoration, and it's
big
like
blow up mold.
It's like 4 or 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
And of course, early years, no one wanted the thing because it's not the most attractive thing in the world.
And you have to put it out at Christmas.
You have to put it out front, like in the yard and everything. Okay, all right.
And then it got to a point where everyone was trying to avoid it, so we would then like sneak it over to someone's house, and they would wake up the next morning, and there it was. To now, it's kind of, I'm not gonna say cool. It
is cool.
Yeah, but people actually now say, "Oh yeah, I'll take it."
I want it. Yeah, it is cool.
I don't know if it still works. Like, does it still light up?
Oh yeah, Jen Kaplan fixed that a couple of years ago.
Well, there you go.
So it's still working.
Running tradition now.
It is.
The little things.
It is.
So there I go again, trying to catch myself.
Let me add
Not
that.
using
I'm going to add that
every time.
Just take that right there for
tally.
you. Yep.
Okay, we got the so tally.
Okay.
21 plus years ago, hot summer day in suburban Detroit. The Pacers are playing the Lakers.
I think it was
in the NBA championship. At Julie and Dave's wedding reception, I think I weighed about a whopping $140. Probably the last time I'll ever weigh 140, and this is right on the front end of my personal experience. Going at the reception, you guys hadn't arrived yet. Everybody's kind of waiting around. Just got into the place where the reception was, and I'd not been drinking, but I was about ready to pass out.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what led into my situation. Sick, weird twist of fate that, as we talked about, and how all these episodes, everyone has a cancer story. Some of us have multiple. We'll go into the first one. So with May is one of the cancer awareness months for brain cancer. So Julie, if you would tell us your cancer story relative to that.
Okay. So your good friend is my husband, David. That's why we connected so many years ago.
Yeah, David and I went to Chatard together.
Okay.
And I met David at IU. But he was diagnosed with glioblastoma in 2016. So it was a strange event. He had just run an errand, come home, went upstairs. He said he wasn't feeling great. And then he called me up and he said, something's wrong. It's really wrong. And then all of a sudden started speaking gibberish and couldn't understand him, didn't know what he was saying. I thought it was a joke. So knowing David, he's a jokester. He likes to make people laugh. So I'm like, this is a joke, right? This is a joke. Speak normally. Speak normally.
One of the best wedding reception dancers ever.
He was, yes. And so I finally said, you've got 10 seconds and I'm going to call 911. So I eventually called 911. I thought he was having a stroke.
Was he at home?
At home.
Okay.
Yes. He had just gotten home and found out that night that he had a brain tumor. Didn't know exactly what type it was at that point, but all things were pointing in the wrong direction. So he was diagnosed February of 2016 with stage 4 glioblastoma.
Wow. Just no signs, nothing, just kind of like anything like that. Looking back, was there anything?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. The interesting thing about the brain is it's so pliable, and so it can cover up the tumor. And so by the time you start having symptoms, it's usually stage 4.
Okay.
So those small symptoms, you could think of getting older, loss of memory, more tired, just forgetfulness.
Yeah.
You attribute to different things, right? So he would have headaches, but he also had a neck injury, so kept treating the neck injury, thinking it was going up to the head. Who knows? You know, looking back, could all of those have been assigned for a few years? Probably.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So depression, and you think, change in mood. You think that, okay, we'll try this. And he would try medication after medication, thinking one would work, and they just wouldn't work. So unfortunately, with brain cancer, once you get diagnosed, it's usually terminal.
So when they made the diagnosis, what was the plan of attack at that point?
Yeah. So initially in the hospital, they say you need to have surgery right away. They don't say for sure it's glioblastoma, and they won't diagnose it until they surgically remove it and biopsy it. So we knew it was a brain tumor, most likely cancer, not officially anything yet. So the first course of treatment was to have surgery. So we ended up going to Duke, and for Dr. Friedman was one of the best surgeons that we had heard about in the country, and through the Brain Tumor Network, they connected us with Dr. Friedman. There's two Dr. Friedmans. One's the surgeon and one's the oncologist within the same program. Okay. And so both of them are world renowned. So the Brain Tumor Network actually did everything for us to get us into the system. Sent all of our information. Within a couple days, we had the oncologist, Dr. Friedman, call us on the phone and say, this is where you need to be. We want you to be here, and here's what we can do for you. And the thing about going to Duke for us was, the biggest thing was not the surgery. It was being at a university setting that also had brain tumor research.
Yeah.
So that would allow for options of clinical trials and different procedures that maybe we didn't have locally.
Yeah.
So when did you guys head to Duke for the first time?
His surgery, so he was diagnosed February 6th, and his surgery was February 26th.
Oh, so that's,
wow.
In that world, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Really pretty quick. So went down there a couple days ahead of time just for some tests and pre-op things, and had surgery, and then he recovered there. We stayed there an additional week after his surgery. Actually, he recovered mostly in the hotel room. He stayed in the hospital for 2 nights and then recovered in the hotel room for a week, but we had to go in for doctor's appointments.
Okay.
So at that point, they thought, they got, with glioblastoma, there's cells all throughout the brain. So there's the main mass of the tumor, which the doctor, surgical Dr. Friedman, Alan Friedman, was able to remove the major mass. But there are these fingers of the tumor, of the cancer, that go throughout the brain. So even though you can say you have 95, 96% of it removed, there's still those cells throughout the brain that are in there that you need to address with chemo and radiation.
Okay.
So we came home, and that was the next step, was to start him on a chemo regimen and radiation. So we did that here locally with an oncologist at IU. And so it was great that we could go to both universities, do our local treatment here, but have surgery there, and also put him in the system for clinical trials.
Yeah.
If the standard protocol wasn't working as well as we had hoped.
Yeah.
So he did oral chemo for, I think, 6 weeks, and then he had radiation every day. I think 35 treatments maybe of radiation. And so that causes, with your brain, I say it's the worst cancer you can get because, there are a number of different cancers that are terminal. But when it affects your brain, it affects who you are, right? So it can change you. It can change your mood. It can change your happiness, your temperament, your, just even being awake. It just made him so sleepy and so tired. And then there's a number of other issues that the radiation affected his hearing and his sight on that side. There's just a number of things that it damages in doing the treatment. But, it's the best course of treatment, and it's the protocol that they do for everybody who gets diagnosed with glio.
Yeah. At what point, I guess, during treatments, I'm trying to visualize back at that time. I remember we had our holiday party that year, December 2016. So at that point, you're 9, 10, 12, 11 months in. How would you say things were going at that point?
At that point, we already knew it was growing again. Yeah. So he came back to Indy, I think it was March 4th, and then started immediately on chemo and radiation and did that whole treatment. But then by the end of October, I think we found out it was starting to grow again. So we had gone back to Duke for a follow-up and MRI. That's where he did most of his MRIs.
Okay.
And it had started to grow. So then they looked through their system and looking at all of his criteria of his tumor. So the different, I forget what it's called, but you're going to edit this out.
Yeah.
Just the different
tumor markers.
Tumor markers.
Okay.
Thank you. That affected the tumor and what he would be eligible for. So they found a treatment that he could start in January. So we went back in January, and he had to go for an infusion every 2 weeks.
Was that a clinical treatment then?
Clinical trial.
Okay, clinical trial.
So he started that, and we would go back every 2 weeks for this clinical trial. And, we just maintained hope. With a terminal diagnosis, you just hope and you just pray and you hope that something could be the breakthrough. And he was such a trooper. He wanted to try everything and anything possible. And he said, give me more, give me more, give me more, because he just wanted to extend that time that he could hopefully be here with all of us. So we did this trial, and it destroyed him from the inside out. It basically burned him from the inside out. And he knew the risks, but he wanted to try it because he said, if it doesn't help me, maybe it'll help somebody else. Maybe they'll learn something from this. He just went through so much. He literally had hematomas all over his skin, all over his body. And it got to the point where he got hospitalized here at the burn unit at Eskenazi because they didn't know how to treat him because his skin was so bad.
Wow.
So bad.
Yeah. I remember that. That was not a good time.
Not a good time. So, oh my gosh, he was just such a fighter. He just wanted to try anything and everything. And for a while, it seemed like that was working. And then it hit a point in early spring that it just started, killing everything on his body. So obviously we had to stop that treatment. Also at the same time, we had, heard about a doctor, Roger Stoop, who was coming from Switzerland. So the standard protocol of glioblastoma is you have surgery first, and then you do chemo and radiation. So this whole protocol is technically called the Stoop Protocol. So he was the one that developed it, and he was moving from Austria, from Geneva to Chicago at Northwestern. So I contacted him in December, hearing he was coming, and David was basically his patient one here in the U.S., and it was closer for us, and it was easier for us to be up at Northwestern than it was to go back down to Duke. And I think both universities are great. They both have brain tumor centers, and Northwestern was really pushing to try to build their brain tumor center. So that was a big deal to have him come here. But the difference was just he treated him as a human. You know, we had a notebook with all the pictures of the kids and then the picture of the whole family from prior to him being sick. And he said, "Let me see that." And he took it and he looked at it and he goes, "This guy, I want you to be this guy. And that's my goal. I want you to be this guy again." So
that's huge. Not all doctors are like that.
No,
that's great. And I will say, real quick sidebar, so we kind of glossed over this. They have triplets. So I have a set of twins. You have a set of twins still baking. They one upped us. They have triplets. How old were the triplets?
They were 10 when he was diagnosed.
Okay, 10 years old. Wow.
Yeah, so it's been a challenge for them. And honestly, I'm so thankful they have each other going through it together. And they're just amazing kids. And that was really his main purpose in his fight, was to be there for those kids. He just wanted to be there for us as much as possible and as long as possible. So, unfortunately, he had another surgery, so the cancer was coming back. We ended up doing more treatment after his treating the skin. He had another surgery for the tumor that had developed at Northwestern, and they removed, again, most of it, 96% of it. And he was doing amazing. I mean, they transferred him right to the Ability Lab in Chicago, where he was doing physical therapy. He was doing things I hadn't seen him do in years. Yeah. Like running backwards, going up the stairs backwards, doing, the karaoke moves. Just, he was feeling good, looking good. Everything was amazing. And unfortunately, in the middle of the night while he was there, they called me that he had a stroke. Wow. And it was a tiny little blood vessel, like the size of one in your eye, that burst in the back of his brain. And he was paralyzed on his right side and had speech aphasia, so couldn't really speak. So he had lost everything. All that he had gained was now worse. And really at that point, so that was in October of 2017, he came back home after therapy and tried to continue therapy here, outpatient, and he ended up passing away December 30th of that year. So it was a quick 2 months.
Yeah.
Of being home after that. And really, in talking to Dr. Stoop after the fact, I said, the tumor, we took the tumor out. And he said, you know what, at that point, he couldn't talk, he couldn't move, he couldn't speak. Sometimes cancer patients, you just, lose your will. He couldn't be the person he wanted to be. It may not have been it was the cancer that ultimately killed him, but he couldn't be the person he wanted to be, and passed on in December. So
I vividly remember our last visit with Dave was prior to Christmas. I don't remember the exact day, but call it mid-December. And he was in hospice care at that point in time, and he was, he couldn't really communicate then we knew he could still hear us.
And understand. He could
and understand, right? Because I also vividly remember another good buddy of ours was staying with him and would keep like one of his feet was exposed, and so he would take, figuring his foot's probably, his toes are cold, right? So he'll take a blanket, put over, and all of a sudden, like 30 seconds later, you'd be reading something or whatever, and he'd look up and like it's uncovered again. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Cover it back up. 2 minutes go by, uncovered again. It's like, okay, wait, what the hell is going on?
Oh, he never slept with his feet covered. Yeah.
So it's crazy, like somehow it still works. Something's still working because he's kicking it off, the blanket off somehow.
Yeah.
And the one thing I remember is so coming back when David passed, two of his closest buddies out of our group were with him. I was the night before, maybe 2 nights before, and it was the middle of the night or something, and they were talking, and I don't remember what they were talking about, something that happened in the past, some memory, and they were talking about it, and Dave like laughed or chuckled or did something like where he actually physically showed a reaction, and you just knew right then and there, like he was saving that for that particular moment.
Yeah.
And that freaking cool. It's take me a while to be able to talk about it. But that, wow, that's a good one.
As much as he couldn't communicate, he still could. He still had a way of communicating, and just even through his eyes, he could communicate.
I will back up what Julie said, having unfortunately watched this all transpire, which is, that's what helps continues to fuel our fire to keep doing what we're doing, is watching someone go through this, knowing that there's nothing you always say, oh, what can I do to help? Like the one thing we all want, like, oh, here's this magic pill, it'll make everything better. Like, or helpless. What the treatments and whatnot he went through, and I know it's just part of it, but literally he went through freaking hell.
Yeah.
I had some bad moments, but it was nothing I can't compare to the things that he went through. And I think to Dave's point, give it to me. Give me whatever you can for two reasons. One, hope.
Right.
Maybe I'm lucky. Maybe I'm the one that turns the corner.
Exactly.
Or two, God forbid if I'm not, but maybe you guys learned something from this to help the next Dave Drew down the road.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's,
exactly. He would say if it could save somebody else's dad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So those times sucked for sure. That's why we keep, pressing on and trying to do what we can do. But unfortunately, the story doesn't end there, does it?
No, we haven't had a very simple life. No. So
do you want to expand on that for us?
Right. So he passed in December, almost the end of the year, almost the last day. But then in October of the following year, so just 10 months later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
So actually, step back to July, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And then a couple months later, I was diagnosed.
Did it feel at that point like you couldn't escape it,
Oh.
kind of thing?
It was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the comment everybody said was, it doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
This
I
can't
think the first
be.
time most of us heard it was like, and this sounds weird, but like almost like, oh, what, you're joking, right? That's like, not that you would joke about that, but like, that can't be right.
Right. It was, you just keep piling it on. And we're a very faith-filled family. We turn to God and our church community and hold on to that faith. And you're like, what did I do wrong? What have I done wrong? How can you give this to me? How can I have this? How can my kids go through this again? It was awful. So my mom was diagnosed with, she was ER, PR positive, and HER2 positive. So estrogen receptor, progesterone receptor, and HER2. And I was triple negative. So all of those were negative receptors. So we had completely different breast cancers, but breast cancer at the same time.
Yeah.
And with my family up in Michigan and me down here, my mom was getting treated the same day I was getting treated. So we couldn't even be together getting our chemo treatment because we were both going through it at the same time, which was so wrong in itself.
The real negative aspect of not being able to be together was horrible. But were there some maybe silver linings going through the process together? You could certainly lean on each other and each other's sounding boards, perhaps.
Going through the similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So
how different was her treatment protocol from yours?
So she was postmenopause, so she just did a lumpectomy, and then I think she did her chemo first. I want to say no. I did the chemo first. She did her surgery first, and then did chemo. Where with me, they wanted to take the tumor first, and I did a bilateral mastectomy, and then I started chemo after that.
Okay.
So I think with triple negative, it gets treated differently than triple positive. So usually they do surgery or chemo first for triple negative, just to see if it even responds to the chemo, because triple negative sometimes, because it doesn't have those hormonal receptors, doesn't always respond to the chemo treatment.
Okay.
And thankfully mine responded really well fairly quickly. So it was virtually gone at that point, and had surgery after that and removed everything. So then after surgery, I had radiation, 6 rounds of radiation, where my mom also did radiation as well. So pretty much a similar protocol, just in a different cocktail.
Yeah.
And different order.
Yeah.
So, but, looking back, I was still doing Pilates up until my 5th round of chemo, and tried to stay active and busy as much as I could, and just be a regular mom, because my kids were still grieving and scared to death, really scared to death.
I was going to ask, what, to the extent that you can, what was going through their minds at that point in time? I can only imagine.
Yeah, just fear.
Yeah, just
huge fear.
And I'm sure, and having 3, and while they're triplets and have a lot of similarities, they're all different people. They probably reacted different ways too.
Completely different. Yeah. One of my daughters would talk a lot about it and ask me a lot of questions, and I think the other 2 were more quiet. It was good that I had one talking, so then the other ones would listen, but not necessarily ask the questions. But they could hear. My sister had also had breast cancer when she was 28. So about 6 years before my diagnosis, she had breast cancer. And so and she's doing well and doing great, and it hasn't come back. So I was able to tell them, look, what you saw Katie go through, that's what I'm going to go through. And I'm going to be fine. And, we're going to get through this, and I'm going to be fine. And I think that was the most important, just so they knew that, I was still going to be here for them.
All right. That goes back to that attitude thing we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you're telling yourself that, or at least conveying that to others. It's all part of the process. We were talking about earlier that, it sounds cheesy, but the attitude aspect is huge.
Major. It is huge. Yeah. It's the hope, and it's the attitude that you're going to beat it.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have both, the fight and the hope.
Yeah, agreed. We did have some bald head comparisons during that time. Not exactly. She wasn't real thrilled about it, but we did.
No, it was cold. I didn't realize how cold it is to not have hair. And in the shower, it's freezing. Like, you want to wear a shower cap because it's so cold. You probably don't even realize it now.
I don't.
No, but I would sleep with a little beanie.
Did you even notice
I
cut my hair this morning? You didn't notice that?
No.
Damn it.
Missed that one. See, I remember Vinny with hair.
This is true. True story, yeah. And now, here's a funny story. Real quick sidebar. at one point when our kids were younger, they put the videotape of our wedding in, and they looked at and they see me up there with hair. They're like, "Wait, why is Uncle Joe up there with Mom?" I'm like, "Hello, that was me. I actually did have hair at one point in time."
That's cute.
But oh well.
That
And then at one point, one of them actually hit the record button on that videotape.
Oh my
So there's
gosh.
now our wedding video that has a
big
2-minute section of like the Wiggles or some cartoon or something. It's like, what?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cute.
I thought Cindy was gonna have a hard time.
Really takes you out of the moment when you're rewatching, the
Right? Yeah.
the wedding.
Exactly.
And then the Wiggles come
The
out.
Wiggles.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the date when you were finished with treatment and at that point considered cancer free?
So finished with treatment July of I don't even remember. 2019.
19.
Yes.
Yeah, diagnosed October 18, so
Right.
July 19.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I had my reconstruction planned for the first week of April 2020. I had to wait 6 months to recover
Yeah.
or after radiation. And so April 2020, everything got shut down. March, it got shut down.
Yeah.
So my surgery then, I just had it last fall in September. So it kind of extended things a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah. But
Our 12-year-old 15-year-old high school humor, we were trying to give suggestions on that.
on the reconstruction side.
On the reconstruction
I see,
side,
I
yes.
see. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it wasn't really listened to, but it's
No.
okay. It's not.
No.
Just saying.
No. So we didn't listen to the guys. No.
No.
No. I think the answer was, you don't have to carry them around.
Right.
So
No. Not interested in that. Not
that's
interested.
too many D's.
Yeah.
Wrong answer.
Yeah. So I do have one more surgery as a touch up after the fact surgery to do, but at this point I'm not
Starting to put in the rear view mirror.
right. I'm
Right?
trying to.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you say the kids are doing today?
I just talked to them this week. I was driving in the car with somebody. They're teenagers now, freshmen in high school. And I said just how lucky I am to have these 3 amazing kids. I mean, they're all a little bit like Dave in different senses,
God help
a
them.
little bit of the humor. Yeah. And they're just awesome. They're amazing. And they're so grateful, humble, fun, love each other, usually love me sometimes. Sometimes the door slams and it doesn't seem like it, but they're really just awesome kids that have been through so much. And I just cannot say enough how proud of them I am with how well they're doing at this point with all that they've been through.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a testament to you guys as parents, number one, and
Thank
to
you.
just that. I'm not gonna say it's particular to Indianapolis by any means, but just that community around you.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
everyone comes in and supports however they can, whether it's simple stuff like leaving a thank you note or bringing over dinner to, hey, I'm there, or and down the road too. I mean, 5 years from now, if your kids have an issue and for whatever reason it's something I can help out, then call me. I'm in.
Yeah.
I think we're all like that.
Right.
This core group of friends, and that's what it comes down to is having that support network to help out.
And that's
however
what
they can.
That's what you realize in this time of tragedy is you realize how fortunate you are with the circle of family and friends that you have. Because so many people stepped in to do just the simplest of things. Coming over and cleaning my house when I was at the hospital, to going grocery shopping, to picking up kids, to keeping them overnight. Just so many things. Even just sending me a card monthly from somebody that didn't even sign it. And it's just an inspirational card. I have no idea who sent it, but would get it monthly. And just, it's phenomenal, the outreach. And you really feel like, I don't know if you felt this way, but when you're going through your hardest times, it's sometimes hard to pray. And that's why when people say, I'll pray for you, it's great, because sometimes I just would be so exhausted and so angry and so upset that I couldn't. And just those prayers would help lift you up, and the support.
Yeah.
So I think that was really important. But even to this day, there are so many people that I would have never expected to reach out who would in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And it also tells you so much. When Dave passed, the number of people that showed up to his funeral and visitation, do you remember? It was freezing, like negative degrees in January. And we ended up having it in my kids' school gym because I didn't want anybody to wait outside at one of the funeral homes. So we had it in the gym, and all of these friends set up the gym so it didn't look like a gym, for him to be there. Friends brought Oriental rugs, and Sullivan's brought trucks of Christmas trees.
Right.
And lined up the walls. And the flowers, it was just beautiful. It really was. The draperies, it was beautiful. So you didn't feel like you were in a gym, and all this happened without me being part of it,
Yeah.
I think Cindy was instrumental in that and helping and organizing that. So it was amazing. But also with all those people that show up, I tell my kids this: your legacy is how you make people feel, right? So if you're kind and you're nice and you're friendly and you're fun, that tells other people, that they're important and that you enjoy being with them, and just that impact on everybody else of just the simple smile or working with them is so important, because everybody walking through would say, he said this to me, or he was so nice to me, or he made me laugh, or he did this. And that's your legacy. It's how people remember you and how you make people feel.
Yeah.
That's so important. And you don't even realize, day to day, how important that is.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
So remember that, Daniel.
I will.
It's almost May and Indy. Any race
I
plans?
know. We do. So my husband's family, they're big race fans. The family, I think, has been going since the beginning. They've had tickets for probably 100 years.
Wow.
And so usually family comes from all over the country for race weekend. This year we have a smaller crew, but we are going.
Good.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah, we have the
That'll be
bus
fun.
lined up and
The bus.
a bus. We always get a bus and
Everybody
head down.
piles in. And
Everybody piles in and tailgates, and it's a great weekend. It's bigger than Christmas for his family. Yeah.
good people.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
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 So the texts have already started. The text chain of
Now, are your kids
excitement.
going?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was one really awesome thing, is Dave was able to take my son Davis to his first race.
Okay. Awesome.
Before he was sick.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And my girls have now been going for the past couple years. Well, they didn't go last year, but I think they went for 2 years prior to that.
Okay.
So,
Do they like it?
they do. They enjoy the excitement of it, and they
Right.
like being there with everybody. So they like the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes, but
Sounds familiar.
yes,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't miss it. They really wouldn't miss it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: having gone through what you've gone through on both sides, personally and with Dave, when you talk to someone else who's in a somewhat similar situation, either separately, what do you feel like you want to share with them?
That's hard because you don't want to give fear. And, we've had both sides of it, where it was terminal and where I've recovered. So,
And would your messaging be different if they're a caregiver versus a patient?
Yes. It's very hard to be a caregiver.
Yeah.
You don't realize how hard that is physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Hope. Hope is the biggest thing. Either
Right.
way, whether you're the caregiver or the patient, just hold on to hope and fight and have a strong connection with your family and God and whatever God or spiritual being that makes you feel good. You just have to take it day by day, really, too. And I remember my 6th round of chemo, I thought, I can't do this again. If I have to do this one more time, I don't think I can do this. But you can. You take a few more weeks and you start to get better again and you do it one more time. So you just have to take it day by day.
Right.
And each day is different. And with Dave, sometimes we would have glimmers of the old Dave, and sometimes we didn't. But you just hold on to those little glimpses of the good in everybody and the good times. And when you feel good, you take advantage of those days.
Right. Well, we appreciate you sharing your stories.
Yeah,
Not
thank you.
Many
Thank you.
people have that, especially at our young age.
I know. I wish it were different.
So do I.
I know.
So do I. But again, thank you for coming in and telling us about
You're welcome.
the
Thank
stories and sharing that with us and all of our viewers. And as always, we're here for you. We love you, and let us know how we can continue to be there.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Welcome.
Thank you.